Amazing dryer washer story.
Yeah, well, you're going to hear it. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another monthly hangout with me and some of my Patreon patrons. Thank you all for watching, and thanks to all of you guys who are here in the room with me. As I said when I first popped in here, and a few of you had already sort of gathered, I'm always kind of relieved when people show up for these. So thank you guys for joining me.
My pleasure.
Right before we went on the air, Matthew asked about the room that I'm in. The room that I'm in when I do these videos, when I do all of my webcam type videos. I'm actually doing these from my laundry room, and you can see behind me on this side is that's my dryer. And Matthew pointed out that most people have their washer and dryer right next to each other, but you can't see it. But my washer is actually over here, and the reason for that is this apartment is in an old house that was sort of retrofitted for apartments, and the washer hookup is over there, but the outside wall and the dryer outlet is over there. So when I switch clothes from washer to dryer, I have to pick them up and carry them across the room. Now you know what my life is like.
You don't know the struggle, right?
You don't know exactly. You guys who are watching this who maybe are not Patreon patrons and you sort of turn up your nose at the idea of supporting people on Patreon, you don't know the struggle. You don't know the struggle. You have to carry wet clothes, a total of maybe 7 or 8 feet, to put them in that dryer.
Remember,
Several times a week.
Steve, the real trick is exercise from somewhere, guy. Come on, I mean, you know.
Hashtag first world problems.
Exactly, you know.
Well, the real trick is if this would occur during one of your video shoots, is have your wife walk across with a pile of laundry.
That would be great. Just hold on a second, y'all.
Oh, wearing chains.
Yeah, wearing chains. A lot of people think it's the other way around. A lot of people seem to think she's the one who's got me chained up. Yeah, that would be hilarious.
I don't know. After that Monday talk, she seemed to kind of into it with the feminist thing. So I kind of thought, you know, maybe she does have you in chains secretly.
She's got me. Yeah, she's got me wrapped right around here.
Well, technically, we can't see your feet. They can be, you know.
That's true.
She could be holding a rifle at your head right now while you're doing this like thing. It's like,
right behind the camera.
Don't tell them.
Change the subject. Change the subject now.
And you already talked about the box, so how many strikes would you have left?
Yeah, that's right.
What's in the box?
Oh, I love that.
Now we're going to obsess about the box, and Steve's going to have to pull it out and say, "See, everybody, it is a box of junk."
Yeah.
Where the box conspiracy starts. Oh, it's a box with a false bottom. Oh, no. You know.
Why won't he show us the box? If there's nothing in the box, why doesn't he just show it to us?
Probably a button in it where you push it and someone in the world dies and you get like $1 million, like in that movie I didn't see.
The collapse of the box number 7 cannot be explained by ordinary circumstances.
It's
we boxers.
We need another investigation.
You know, I don't know. I hopefully they don't have all the scripts done for the new X-Files series. Maybe I can pitch that. I can get maybe I'll get to meet. I'll pitch the story and I'll say I can play myself in it, and then maybe I'll get to meet David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson. That would be kind of cool.
Didn't they do an X-Files movie where there was like a scene where they had like a head in a box or like an ice box or something like that? It's kind of fuzzy.
Well, I didn't see the second one. They did 2 X-Files movies. I saw the first one when it came out, when the series was still on. But
the second one, I sort of vaguely remember, and I just remember it being just lame.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Because I was a big X-Files fan when it was on the air, and when that second movie came out just a couple years ago, like when it had been off TV for a while. And I remember at first being kind of interested in it, and then the reviews for it were just terrible. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll catch that one sometime. You know, I've just never gotten around to seeing it.
Well, if the first X-Files movie was nothing to write home about, so I mean, I guess it's worth missing it, really.
I mean, at the time I thought it was kind of cool because it was the first time I had really seen something like that, where the end of the TV season like led into the movie, and then the movie kind of led back into the next season of the TV show. It was I'd never seen them do something. I'd never seen like a TV series do a movie while the TV series was still on the air. Usually it was like with Star Trek, it was always, well, we'll end the series and then we'll start doing movies, you know. And with X-Files, it was like, no, we're gonna keep doing the show, you know.
You know, actually, the one Star Trek movie I've ever seen was the Atrocity from '02. What was?
Oh, Nemesis.
Star Trek 5.
Yeah, Nemesis.
Yeah.
I saw it in theaters. I'm like, why?
If that's the only one you've ever seen, I don't blame you for not watching any of the other ones.
I should watch the Abrams ones. I should watch those. If I'm going to see Star Wars, I should probably watch the Abrams Star Treks. I mean.
Yeah, because it'll probably be a decent preview of what to expect.
I have to say, when Lauren said 5, he looked absolutely furious. He was like, 5! How dare you? A 5-letter word, a 4-letter word.
Yes. There's a lot of hatred for 5, especially among Star Trek lovers, you know. A lot of us don't care for that movie at all. I have kind of a soft spot for it, though. I mean, I don't think it's a good movie at all, but I can kind of watch Star Trek 5 and feel kind of warm about it, because it's like, I mean, I like William Shatner anyway. And one of the things I like about William Shatner is that he's not very good at what he does, but he seems to be trying really hard.
It's the thought that counts, right?
And I get that feeling from Star Trek. And also, he's like an egomaniac. So he tries really hard, but he also can't help but make everything all about him. And it just, I don't know. There's something fascinating about it.
Yeah.
I'll say this much for him. I mean, you can call me crazy, and I'll do is nod my head dumbly. But I kind of liked some of the stuff he did with Raw Nerve. I thought some of that was really actually very good. And the conversation he had with Nimoy on Raw Nerve, I thought was wonderful. I mean, some of the stories they shared, I thought were just terrific.
I actually watched that episode again within a couple days of Nimoy's death. Mm-hmm. And I was reminded of how good it was. I really liked. I mean, I say that Shatner's not good at what he does, but I mean, I have nothing but love for the guy. Like I try to see everything that he does, and I mean, I'm not the type of person that I'm not really into comic cons. I don't go to cons, or I don't go after people's autographs or stuff like that. But when, you know, if I see like a video pop up in my YouTube feed of like Shatner at a Comic-Con panel that somebody shot like with their iPhone or something, like, I will sit there and watch it. I mean, I don't, you know, I love the guy, and I thought Raw Nerve was a great show. I wish that he had done some more of it, you know.
I was struck especially with the one he did with Carol Burnett. It just the interaction between those two. I don't have words for it. All I can say is see it.
Yeah. I really like interview shows like that. I wish there were more interview shows like that. Like, you know, I guess the obvious example to make now is like Charlie Rose, where he'll interview like one person at a time for, you know, and Tom Snyder did that too. When Tom Snyder did Tomorrow, and then also the Late Late Show. It was just him and one other person for half an hour, and I thought that was really, really interesting, you know. But they don't. There's not really very much. Yeah.
Oh, did you see Conan O'Brien doing that?
Yeah, I like. Conan's what's it? Serious Jibber Jabber. Is that what he calls it?
I forget what it was called. It's just between, like, when he was chomping at the bit to have TV, give me TV. And he had a big black room, and he just invited friends over, and
I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah, Serious Jibber Jabber. Actually, I haven't watched all of those. I watched the one that he did with Ken Burns, and I thought that was really interesting, because I'm a big Ken Burns fan too. I just watched the most recent episode of Louie, which I think was the season finale. And when Louie is walking through he's walking through a flea market, and there's a guy playing a fiddle, and the song that the guy is playing on the fiddle is Ashokan Farewell, the theme from the Civil War, Ken Burns' Civil War documentary, and I recognized it immediately. And I was like, I'm such a nerd. Like, I knew that song as soon as I heard the first couple bars of it. I was like, it's Ashokan Farewell! And like...
I don't watch that show enough. Like, the few episodes of Louie that I've seen are just hysterical. I mean, he really knows how to get your laugh box working, you know. But you know, I need to watch more. It's on Netflix, I think.
Yeah, I think now the season that just finished, I think was the 5th season, but I think all the previous seasons are on Netflix now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's one of my favorite shows ever. It's just because I mean it's really funny, but it also like he knows how to to use the comedy to sort of comment on deeper subjects.
Yeah.
You know, I like a lot like, you know, someone like George Carlin used to do, or Richard Pryor. Like he does that in his stand-up too. He's just a great comic, but the show is tremendous, and he's good at making himself look like an asshole. Like, I think that's really the key.
Great at that.
That's the key to being like a good comedian, and to being able to talk about like controversial subjects or touchy subjects, but also remain likable and keep people on your side. Is be willing to make yourself look like a dick.
Yeah. Have you seen the episode where he calls a woman in the audience a cunt over and over again because she's like talking too much?
Yeah, the heckler. Yeah.
I'm watching this and I'm like, oh, okay. Like they're saying this vulgar word over and over again, and I'm just thinking, all right, I can dig this. Okay.
Yeah, he even tells her at one point, please die of AIDS. Which is such a horrible thing to say to someone.
Right. And then she comes up and starts flirting with him afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I remember that episode.
Yeah, and he tells her at first he's like, look, just don't even talk to me. Just get away from me. Like I don't even want to talk to you. You're not, what you did in there was not okay. You know.
Right, and then she walks away, and then his friend's like, bro, you could have turned that into something. She was coming on to you this then, and he's like, oh fuck.
Yeah, well, you know, the most striking moment for me in that show, as far as Louie making himself look like a dick, and it was something that it wasn't even really played for laughs. It was something that made Louie seem kind of creepy, but I really loved it because I felt like it was a really brave choice of him, not just as an actor, but as the guy who writes and directs the show, like to put his character in that position where he was with Pamela, the woman that he kind of has a crush on for most of the show, and she was in his apartment, and it looked like they were about to finally, you know, kiss or consummate their flirtation, and then she decided she wanted to leave. She was like, oh no, you know what, this isn't right. I don't want to do this, and she's leaving, and he like doesn't let her leave. And he's not violent or anything, you know. He doesn't, you know, grab her and throw her around or anything. But she keeps trying to open the door, and he keeps closing the door, and he kind of ends up backing her into a corner, and you know, and he finally lets her go, and it was just such an amazing scene because you see how those sorts of things can happen in real life, where he doesn't mean any harm to her. And he doesn't want to hurt her, and he's not trying to intimidate her or be imposing to her, you know.
Right, but she gets that idea, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and you know that, and we see throughout the rest of the series that Louie is not a bad guy, and you know, and I thought, man, that's so amazing that he would put that in, and clearly I think it was intentional because I think he's a smart enough writer to know that we're not really supposed to take Louie's side in that scene. We're supposed to think that he's maybe going a little too far, but to do it in such a subtle way where he's not doing it out of anger or out of violence. He's doing it because he really just wants this person so bad, and he can feel her slipping away, and he just can't let her go, and he winds up coming real close to doing something inappropriate with her.
Yeah.
Backing somebody into a corner, generally speaking, is not a positive action. I don't know what the venue is, and I haven't seen this at all. But
no. Well, and the way he shoots it too, like the fact that he's just a lot bigger than she is. You know, she's a small sort of petite woman. He's like this big guy. And yeah, he's kind of looming over her. And again, like it's clear that he doesn't mean her any harm, but it's also clear that he's doing something he shouldn't be doing.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
I like the one where he tries to get back in touch with this grade school crush of his, and then he gets to her apartment somewhere in New York, and it's like all trashed and stuff. And he walks in, and she's put on a few pounds since he last remembers her. And then there's this awkward exchange where they're talking about memories. And then just like this pause, and then they start making out of nowhere, and they end up on the floor like a couple of walruses wrestling. It's like that was a funny episode.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that. It's just one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, it's a good show.
Yeah. Hi, David. Thanks for joining us. I saw you come in.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
We were just we were just talking about Louie,
Louie.
and then before that, I told the fascinating story of why my dryer and my washer are on opposite sides of the room. So now you know what you missed.
Thanks.
Just wanted to catch you up. So what's going on with everybody else? How is everybody?
Trying not to be wet. I mean, it's been raining cats and dogs here the last couple of days.
Same here. I've heard that the Missouri River is kind of starting to flood a little bit, maybe.
Again.
Yeah, it does that a lot. We're just kind of used to it now. Like, oh, it flooded again? Okay, that's a thing. Like,
yeah, I can still remember the news reports about the Mississippi and the Missouri rivers flooding, like 4, 5, 6 years ago, and I'm sort of thinking, we've got all this water in the Midwest and the Plain States, and they're dry as a bone in California. Yeah. Water, piping system of some sort, maybe? I mean, if we can do it with oil, why can't we do it with water?
Well, to be fair, you wouldn't want to drink the Missouri River water unless you wanted to gain, like, mutant superpowers or something like that.
You wouldn't want to drink the water out of Lake Erie either, which is why we have water filtration plants.
That would be a great idea for a superhero origin. Someone drinks water out of the Missouri River and he becomes like,
Well, that's either the Swamp Thing or the Toxic Avenger, isn't it?
Captain Ozark.
Yes.
The Show Me Avenger.
The Tale of a Crane.
They actually made a video called Redneck Avengers, where like it was these people doing redneck voices. They kind of lip read the Avengers movie.
I saw
that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was that was pretty funny.
It was pretty funny. Yeah. The guy who does those bad lip reading, he's one of my favorite YouTubers. He's done. Well, he used to just do music videos, and he would write like completely new songs with lyrics, like just written so that it would match the lip sync in the video, And he would write, like, he did this one that I really like the song, like, even though it's complete nonsense. The lyrics are completely incomprehensible because it's all about matching the lips. But he took the video for like a Michael Bublé song, who I am not a fan of, and he made it into like this, poppy like club song called Russian Unicorn. That makes no sense at all, but it matches the music video to the Michael Bublé song perfectly, and it is so funny. It is so funny.
I should check him out sometime. I think I've only seen that one Avengers episode or video they did, but yeah. And
a couple years ago,
fond of his lip sync.
Yeah, and a couple years ago he did he did lip syncing to like political advertisements. Like he would do Rick Perry, like saying crazy things or
Except that you don't need somebody else to do crazy things with Rick Perry. He already does that himself, and he's getting ready to do it again.
Oh, I can't imagine these guys running for president again.
Yeah, him, Santorum, why Pataki's getting into it, I can't fathom.
Pataki's actually one of the more respectable ones. That's the crazy part. I mean, it's like when you're on the stage with guys like Rick Perry and Rick Santorum and Ted Cruz. I mean, it's probably kind of good to be George Pataki.
Yeah. Did you see the video where Ted Cruz is speaking and he keeps like pausing where he's talking and then he just like and then continues and then does the same thing again for like 5 seconds and it's just the weirdest thing you've ever seen.
He's listening to the voices in his head.
Exactly. Oh my God,
what am I supposed to do with Obama? Oh, I'm supposed to cancel Obama. Yes, cancel Obamacare.
He's listening to the voice of God that
that he thinks is there. Yeah.
I think the voices in his head are telling him about the deals at Walmart.
Exactly.
Attention, Kmart shoppers! The blue light special.
Yeah, that's what, if you see Ted Cruz just abruptly run off stage during a public appearance, it's because the voice in his head told him that the blue light special is on.
Oh,
Yeah,
I could use some stocks.
exactly. He's on. He's one of the. I think he's #1 in tomorrow's 5 Stupid Things video. Because he 3 years ago he voted against disaster relief funding for Hurricane Sandy because he said there was too much pork barrel spending in the bill. But now he's, shaking his fist and pounding his feet over disaster relief for the flood in Texas, And everybody's like, well, that's great. We're happy to fund disaster relief for people suffering in Texas, but you did kind of vote against it for people in New Jersey 3 years ago.
It's a typical deal. Your ox gets gored, you expect compensation. Somebody ox gets gored, who cares?
It's kind of terrifying to think of one of these guys actually being president. Like, let's say 90% of the U.S. drinks Missouri River water, and suddenly they vote for Ted Cruz.
Oh God.
I mean, the crazy part to me is that of all those Republicans that are running, one of them is going to have to get the nomination, and
Do
then
they have to?
Aww.
maybe it'll be a dead heat. Maybe everybody will finish with exactly the same number of votes in all the states, and nobody will get the nomination.
And an eagle wearing boxer shorts will show up and win the nomination, hands down.
Did you say
An eagle
Sam
wearing
the
American
Eagle?
flag boxer shorts. Sam the Eagle would be good. Sam the Eagle would actually be a more viable candidate than most of the Republicans that have announced their candidacy.
At least he'd be genuinely funny. The rest of these guys are just tragically funny.
Has anyone seen the video Too Many Cooks? It's like a it's like it makes fun of, it's like a mock reel of like a bunch of presidential candidates, and it goes into this really absurd territory where it has candidates like Eagle or Demon Sheep, and I just thought it was a pretty funny video.
Yeah,
it's talking about presidential elections.
Yeah, it's like a riff on the Too Many Cooks with the sitcom credits. The original one, I think.
Oh, I didn't know it was from something. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I guess I'm young. Yeah.
Well, but they're both really funny. I mean, it's like in 2012 when they did. I forget who it was. I think it was just a YouTuber. They did like a parody of Gangnam Style with Mitt Romney called Mitt Romney Style, and a lot of people who hadn't seen Gangnam Style just saw that video and thought that it was like, that it wasn't actually making fun of anything. It was just like making fun of Mitt Romney doing some crazy shit, and it works on its own even if you've never seen the video that it's a takeoff of,
Right.
Although it's very appropriate, that's a very appropriate spoof given what Gangnam Style is about.
I don't even know what Gangnam Style is about.
Welcome to the club, Steve. I've never even seen I've seen clips of the video, but never saw the video.
Well, I think he was just trying to start something. Like, I don't really know if the video is really about anything. It's just this guy. It's just side doing this thing for 3 minutes, and then
in the interview with him, he was. In the interview with him, he mentioned, or he explained that he was making fun of the decadent lifestyle back in his home, Gangnam, Korea, like rich people doing shitty Valley Girl type things.
That does make sense.
So basically, he's like, "Look at how rich and stylish and awesome I am." That's like the whole video, and then of course he's acting like a jackass the whole time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. Do rich people in Korea do lasso dancing? Look at those rich assholes swirling their fake lassos around.
Like solid gold lassos.
Yeah. I think they're so much better than us.
solid gold lasso would be kind of hard to swing around. It'd be kind of heavy, wouldn't it?
You have to make sure it's made in the right shape.
That's why you need a robotic arm.
Yes. Has anybody else here watched Kung Fury yet?
I have not.
You guys have to watch Kung Fury.
Kung Fury?
It's a YouTube video, and it's like a spoof of 80s action adventure movies. and it's half an hour long, and it was made by just some guys in Sweden who crowdfunded the whole thing. And it's really intentionally like over the top and goofy, and it's about this guy who is like a kung fu master / police officer in Miami in 1985, and he fights a time-traveling Hitler, and like there's dinosaurs and Vikings, and Thor is involved in it. It's hysterical. It's really, really well done, and I mean it's almost all visual effects. You know, like there's a lot of CGI in it, but it's done like. You can tell that it's all CGI, but it's done in a style, so it's sort of supposed to be that way, and it's just really, really well done. And the reason it's gone viral now, but the reason I knew about it in the first place was because they got David Hasselhoff to do the song for it and the music video. So I watched that before I watched the movie, and again, it's like a total '80s throwback. It's like a big, like puffed up power ballad. It's really not even about anything. It's just, you know, it's all just hooks. And Hasselhoff is in it with like an '80s wig and like a leather jacket walking around. It was hilarious. I just thought it was hysterical. So check it out, Kung Fury, if you haven't seen it yet.
Sounding like a little bit like Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
Yeah, a little bit.
That was from another planet. Absolutely, that was not from here. Earth should disavow that movie.
No, Kung Pao is great.
One of my favorite YouTube videos is this. I don't know if you guys seen it. It's this thing called Guy on a Buffalo. There's like 4 of them.
I've never seen that.
Basically, have you ever heard of the movie called it was like Buffalo Rider from like the 50s? It's just about, I haven't seen it, but it's just about this guy who rides a buffalo around the American wilderness, basically.
I think I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Okay, so this guy, I don't know who he is. He made a video satirizing it where he just kind of like gets a guitar and he sings about everything he sees, and it's just the most ridiculous thing you've ever. It's just treat yourself. Just look up Guy on a Buffalo. There's 4 of them. The second one's the best, but they're all hilarious. You know, it's just if we're talking about good YouTube videos, I think those are good ones to watch.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. I've never seen it.
When I think of bizarre videos, my favorite stuff as it comes to bizarre videos, I think, is like between about 2009 and 2011 or 12, the stuff that Syriac did, especially Welcome to Kitty City, Meow, and Cows. Those, that's the premium stuff right there. You want to see truly bizarre, Syriac is your man.
Yeah, I like. There's this video that there are two cat videos that I will occasionally watch if I think of them and I realize it's been a while since I saw them. And one of them it's just a really short, like 10-second video that somebody obviously just took on their cell phone, and it's of a little baby, like a toddler, maybe 1 year old, just walking down like a garden path. And he's just kind of toddling along, and then he gets to a corner, and a cat jumps out and like jumps him right in the face and knocks him down. And that's it. That's the end of the video. It's just like this little baby running, cat jumps out, knocks him down, end of video. I laugh for hours thinking about it. And then there's another one that this guy did where he took video of his cat meowing, but he replaced the meows with him saying "hey." So you just see the cat opening its mouth and going "hey, hey, hey." It's so funny. And there's one where the cat is like in the shadows, sort of looking out, and it goes "hey." It kills me.
There's another good one called Kitty History. It's I think it's from Comedy Central, but basically, if you're into mocking conspiracy theories, you'd like Kitty History.
Oh, great.
Yeah, you'd like Kitty History.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm into mocking conspiracy theories.
Adventures of Kim Jong-un. Ever heard of the Adventures of Kim Jong-un?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Written, directed,
I don't
and...
think I've ever... Yeah. Hey, Lars.
Just like a 2-second delay.
Hey, no problem. Sorry I joined late. I had to take care of a few things.
Oh, that's okay. I'm sure there must be dozens of more important things to do than this.
Probably.
Oh yeah. No, it's fine. What have we talked about so far? We were just talking about goofy YouTube videos and cat videos, and then before that we talked about Louie, and then I told the story of why my washer and dryer are on opposite sides of the room. So
That's the sort of shit I have.
The box.
Oh yes, Lauren reminded me. There's also a box behind me that has mysterious contents that I refuse to share. So.
I think it has chemtrails in it.
Yes, that's where the chemtrails come from. That's where we did the stuff that they add to the I guess the airplane fuel. I don't know what.
So that it can melt steel beams.
Yes, exactly.
No, it has the thermite charge from 9/11 that didn't detonate.
Exothermite. Super thermite.
Exactly. That's actually
supercalifragilistic thermite.
I keep it's just a small sample of the melted steel that was at the bottom because that was there too.
It's either that or Darth Vader's helmet.
Darth Vader's helmet. Luke Skywalker's lightsaber is in that box.
Oh wait, do you use the melted steel from the base of the towers as the same way that you would use kryptonite on Superman, but against George W. Bush, right?
Yes, exactly. Most people don't realize if George W. Bush gets too close to 9/11 debris, he will begin to lose his strength. I feel weak. Got somebody get me out of here. So his skin will start to turn red, white, and blue.
But that's a selling point for the Republican Party. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah, I saw a picture, actually, if we're talking about 9/11, I saw a picture of, it was, this Facebook page I like is called 9/11 Conspiracy Theories Are BS, and this guy posted a picture to it. It said, you truthers keep talking about the melted steel beams, and you keep showing this picture of it, but you ignore the guy standing there with the thermal lance. And you can see a picture of a guy with a thermal lance.
Right.
So it's like, yeah.
He's awful close to that melted steel, isn't he?
Yeah, I wonder what that was for.
I am unfortunately quite intimately familiar with 9/11 conspiracy theorists because I think my father is one himself.
My grandparents are
Condolences.
conspiracy theorists. I have conversations with them all the time. It's just like, guys, please.
I have those in my family too.
Yeah. I know. I have a friend who he's never been like a full-blown conspiracy theorist, but he's just one of those guys that likes, oh, gee, I don't know, that sounds interesting, And he was over for a visit. And this was years ago. He was over here, and we were hanging out. And I forget how we even got on the subject, but he started talking about like 9/11 and how there were some things that just sounded kind of funny about it, blah blah blah. And I was kind of rude to him. I sort of just cut him off and said, just stop it, all right? Just stop it right now. I don't want to hear about it. You're not going to convince me that it was an inside job. I know everything you're going to say I've already heard because I've dealt with these people on the internet. Just stop.
The difficult thing about this is that the person who I was talking about is someone who has spent the last 10 years of his life studying the entire history of 20th century politics, so I'm not in a position to argue with him about anything.
Yeah, that sucks. There's a guy, actually, I forget his name. I won't mention his name anyway, but he had like a really impressive military career. I mean, he was in the Army for like 20 years, and he worked in Army intelligence, and and then he retired from the military, and he's a conspiracy theorist, and he does these presentations. Like, he goes around to local groups and stuff, and he gives these presentations, and there apparently isn't a conspiracy theory that he doesn't accept, and there are a lot of conspiracy theorists like that. They sort of believe in all of the conspiracy stuff. And he gave a talk at the library where my wife used to manage a few years ago about the Kennedy assassination. That was just total horseshit. I mean, it was nuts. And yeah, because according to his theory about the Kennedy assassination was apparently everybody except Lee Harvey Oswald did it. Like, he was putting like all these CIA people and Russians and the Mossad, like basically every Kennedy conspiracy theory you've ever heard, just sort of mushed together.
I don't think I've ever known anyone who's that crazy about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he was like, he was like, "Oh, you see this guy in the tan coat? That was George H.W. Bush, because I have another picture of him wearing the same coat." I was like, well, you're crazy. Because I guess he was the only person who had a coat like that in 1961. But and then at the end of it, he had like a little preview of other talks that he could give if other people wanted to invite him to give a talk, and it was like the truth about Noah's Ark and 9/11 and the moon landing, and it was like, Jesus Christ, he's crazy. But how can you argue with him? Because like you say, I mean, he has these really impressive sounding credentials. It's like, boy, he couldn't possibly be crazy, could he? I mean, he was in the Army. He was in Army intelligence. He seems like a reasonable enough guy. And he was a really nice guy, but he was just nuts,
And my grandparents are the same way. They're otherwise reasonable people who believe a really, really unreasonable thing. That's kind of how a lot of them are.
First you vet him, then you vet what he has to say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. I mean, and I did ask him some questions during the after he was done, when he was taking questions. I wasn't like I wasn't belligerent with him or anything, because I actually helped him with his presentation. Like, he needed someone to push the button on his PowerPoint to go to the next slide, because he didn't have remote control. So I kind of helped him out, and so I didn't want to come off as too aggressive, but I kind of would ask him questions like, like, this had to be the most botched assassination in history, right? I mean, if they wanted to kill one guy, and according to you there were like 30 people there shooting at him, I mean, this is like the sloppiest attempt to assassinate a world leader ever, right?
Was there anything left of his body?
Well, their bullets ricocheted off each other.
Yeah, exactly. The bullets all kind of hit each other.
The thing that's so unbelievable about all of these conspiracy theories, I guess, is that they would have to require more coordination than really is humanly possible. So, yeah, I don't know. That's why I've always been so skeptical.
Yeah, pretty much all of them are like that. It's like, this is something that was pulled off by this elite, evil government organization that was somehow so sloppy that some dude in his basement figured it all out.
Mm-hmm. And my uncle Jeff is schizophrenic, and I probably shouldn't have mentioned his name. Never mind.
Your Uncle Dave.
He used to back me into. Yeah, You know,
you go.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He used to he would come over, and while I was alone at home, and he would back me into the back of the backyard, talking softer and softer and softer about. It was mostly designed as advice to me to avoid the attention of what I could only describe as militant upright citizens brigades that were
wow.
When he described it, he was driving down the street, and everyone that he saw on the street, everyone was part of it, and the way that they were facing was some sort of piece of the message, and if they were looking at that sign, that was a part of the message, and there's just something similar between that and this conspiracy theory. I can't necessarily put my finger on it exactly.
Yeah, there was a guy I used to know when I about, I guess, maybe 10 or 15 years ago. I worked at a truck stop. I worked maintenance at a truck stop, and there was this guy who was like a drifter who would come through. He would usually come through once a year, and we would see him. And he was always a really nice guy, but there was a screw loose, and he would talk about the government and the secret agenda and things like that, and one time, and this was after 9/11 that he came in, and one time he handed me this piece of paper that he had torn out of a magazine, and he had circled random words in it, from A Beautiful Mind. And he said, "You see this?"
Mm-hmm.
He said, "You see this? This is like a script. This tells you what they're going to do." And I used to be blind to it, but then I figured out how to read the documents. And I was like, "Oh yeah." And as soon as he would walk away, I would look to whoever I was working with, and we would sort of exchange a look get a load of this guy. He was something. But I guess I don't want to dismiss every conspiracy theorist as mentally ill, because I don't think that's accurate.
It isn't.
But there's not at all. But there's a lot of overlap. Like if you've ever known someone who is like schizophrenic and has delusional thoughts, there's a lot of overlap between how those things work. You know, the feeling of being persecuted by unseen forces.
You know, there's this idea that I see among people who believe like this is ego's shit, that they tend to think of it as being open-minded. You know, they'll say, "Oh, I'm just open-minded. I am willing to accept various things that may or may not be true." But it's like,
and his brain spills out.
Yeah. The problem is like it's not open-minded to be unwilling to accept that something might not be true. You know, that is
right.
I have my oldest brother is he's like a pseudo philosopher, and he's like, oh well, what can we truly know? What can we truly prove to be true or false? How do I know that the moon landing really happened? How do I know 9/11 was such? Like, don't bullshit me. There are ways you can know. You just don't know. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
And because you don't know, therefore it's possible.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, as an engineer, you learn some real fast that you can't know anything for certain because there's always error bars. You know, you're always talking about plus or minus so many milliamperes or plus or minus so many, you know, micrometers or whatever have you.
Too.
And my attitude is, hey, maybe I don't know for absolute certain, but there's such a thing as practical reality. And I mean, if I fix a system, the customer's happy with it, and the customer can run his product, and it's, you know, within the parameters he expects. Hey, is the system perfect? No. Is it running? Yeah. Is it liable to continue running for a while? You know, hey, we're good.
Yeah.
So,
I think there's a lot of like reluctance among some conspiracy theorists to come to conclusions. They feel like if they come to a conclusion about something, that they're being closed-minded. But they kind of have come to a conclusion, you know, like they've come to the conclusion that what 99% of people think is true is not true, you know, and that this very unlikely scenario is actually true. I mean, they've kind of come to a conclusion already, but they don't look at it that way. But yeah, if you're
it always seems as if the. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, it always also seems like they conclude that it's nefarious, whatever it is.
Oh yeah, that old adage of, you know, never attribute to malice what could be explained by incompetence. They don't believe in that.
Yeah, there's never any conspiracy theory that says, oh yeah, the fires inside the Twin Towers just started by themselves. It's always, oh, it was actually the government, you know, or they were trying to cover it up. It was never, oh, there was actually an accident, and they just didn't go on it.
That's what that was my first response when people started up after and it's not just this incident, it's after almost anything tragic happens, like after the Boston Marathon bombing, or after like the Sandy Hook shooting. You know, there were like the Alex Joneses of the internet were saying, oh, there was something not right about that, you know, because they say that about everything. And my question is,
flag operation.
Yeah, exactly. Everything is a false flag operation. And my question is, well, then how do you tell the difference? Because unless you're saying that shootings and terrorist attacks never actually happen and everything is a false flag operation, you must be able to tell between a genuine terrorist attack or a genuine shooting and a false flag operation. So explain to us what the difference is. Explain to us how we can tell the difference. And if you can't explain it,
if they make the news, they're false flag.
Yeah, exactly.
Life is a false flag operation. We must embrace this.
Well,
what is a false
kind of
flag
understand
operation?
to some extent why I guess why my father would be kind of suspicious of like all of the official stories, because one of the things that he learned, which was apparently fascinating, which was really fascinating to me, is that for a while a bunch of journalists had been going around saying that Osama bin Laden was 6 foot 6 inches, but as it turns out, the source of that claim was another journalist originally, and people who had actually who had actually seen Osama in person said that he was only 6 feet tall. So, I don't know. I still don't believe like most of the things he says about 9/11, but I do think on some level there is a right to be skeptical of the official story, but I just don't agree with the extent to which people take it, I guess.
Oh, sure. I mean, you know, a lot of people who, like, when I make videos about maybe making fun of conspiracy theorists or whatever, you know, there are people who are sort of more on that side who will say things like, "Oh, so you just believe everything the government tells you?" No, I never said that. I mean, skepticism about authority, I think, is a good thing. But it has to be rational skepticism, and it can't be the kind of overboard, crazy skepticism where you just don't accept anything that anybody tells you, no matter how reasonable it is. You know,
Yeah, you have a good reason to be skeptical. You know, there needs to be something that obviously sticks out as bullshit, which, in the case of 9/11 or Sandy Hook, there isn't. And why would someone want to exploit an incident like Sandy Hook? When I heard there were false flag operation theories about Sandy Hook, it was like a facepalm day for me. I couldn't.
Oh yeah.
Joseph, I can answer that in one word: attention.
Yeah.
As in, they want it.
Attention and shamelessness.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's a reason why.
I remember somebody posting something about this teenager in high school had an NRA T-shirt. You know, it was like something about protect your freedom, blah blah blah, and it had an assault rifle on it. And he was asked to turn it inside out in the lunchroom, and he refused, citing stuff about freedom of speech and such. And then it escalated to the point of the resource officer or something getting involved and like telling him to be quiet and sit down, and he refused that too. But then it escalated it even further than that when his mother filed a lawsuit against the school saying that his First and his 14th Amendment rights were infringed upon.
Yeah.
And this was posted, and I said something kind of snide because it seemed a bit overboard.
A bit?
And that the immediate response of the guy who posted it was, "See, people like Chris here who like swallow everything that the police want to feed them." And I said, "Well, no, but when there are stories like people actually dying in ignominious ways, like without any dignity because of police brutality, a stuck-up teenager whose mommy is filing a lawsuit against the school on behalf of his T-shirt, it seems a little crass."
Yeah.
A couple of years ago on Atheist Nexus, there was a discussion about some kid, probably like in first, second grade, something like that, who had a Pop-Tart, who munched it into the shape of a gun, and everybody gets upset. And I sort of made the point in the discussion, well, what do you suppose is going to happen? Do you suppose he's going to bite out a couple of rounds, load his gun, and start shooting kindergartners? I mean, how absurd do you really want to get with this? Answer, pretty absurd.
Yeah, I mean, you can clearly go too far. I mean, I think some of the most frustrating things, like that Pop-Tart story, which was ridiculous, is, I mean, the concern comes from a place that I understand. The concern comes from a good place, but it just goes way overboard. I mean, you're not really protecting anybody by telling kids that they can't bite their Pop-Tarts into shape of guns. I mean, some things are just kids playing and deserve to be ignored.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know?
I can think of things I've done where it's like, I remember once in like, I don't know, home ec class or social studies, I was playing, we had like these big meter sticks. And, I was a player in a lot of war games and what have you. Was being young, I would just take the meter stick and be like pretending I was aiming at people and shooting. And like, man, I can imagine these days having been expelled for that sort of thing, because they're like, oh, he's playing with like pretending he's shooting his classmates. No, I'm just fucking a kid goofing around.
Yeah.
I can imagine getting in a lot of trouble these days for that sort of thing.
That's well within the realm of possibility, Brett. Don't make any mistake about it.
Yeah. I know. To me, it's like it's a kid goofing around. If he brings an actual gun, be concerned.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I say, I mean, there are people who I think are overly cautious, but their heart's in the right place. But especially when you're dealing with kids, and kids, hey, I guess when people become adults, they forget what it was like to be a kid. But when you're a kid, you don't always do things that make sense. You don't always do things that are like the most appropriate thing for you to do at the time.
Of course not.
It doesn't mean that, you know, you should be expelled or that you should be pulled out of school. Or, I mean, sometimes all a kid needs is just to have someone sit them down and say, okay, from now on, just don't do that anymore. You know? Like, it's not that big of a deal.
So what about the recent bans on water guns, Nerf guns by organizations? I think, what was it, the Boy Scouts that banned them recently?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, like, it's hard for me to think, because when I was a kid, we played with water guns and nobody cared. You know, like, it was fine.
Oh yeah, I remember. Like fuck. With one of the things that I did with my cousins when they still kind of lived closer to me is I had this massive squirt gun which was called the Splash Zuka.
Sounds epic.
And it was the best thing ever. Because you know those older squirt guns, how you had to like pump, had those older super soakers, how you had to like pump them in order to get them to fire. Well, the way the Splash Zuka worked is that it came with its own electronic charging station that was plugged into an outlet. So instead of having to pump it, you just plugged it in, and it was also something like twice as powerful as most other super soakers. So it got pretty crazy pretty fast.
That's great.
I like the idea that you're charging in something that's full of water.
Yeah, water and electricity, there's a combination.
I don't think it worked quite like that.
Let's sell that to kids.
Yeah. The thing is, I mean, back in the 50s and the 60s, I mean, I played with guns that actually shot plastic bullets. I mean, Mattel made this stuff back in the 60s, and I just ate it up with a spoon and a fork. And now, of course, you can't do any of that. Oh, because you might, shoot somebody. And even Nerf. I mean, I don't know about. It's never happened to me, but I wouldn't want to catch a Nerf thingy in the eye. Thank you very much. No, thank you.
No, it's not because you might swallow it. It's because you might sue somebody.
Right.
Well, it's all because we're just so terrified of another Columbine that we're kind of just scrambling to make it look like we're actually addressing the problem when we're not.
So
yeah, exactly.
I want to address
security
gun control,
theater.
Let's address Nerf gun control.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of real gun control, it's Nerf gun control.
Yeah, because Wayne LaPierre won't have it any other way.
Yeah, exactly.
I was actually I actually live in Maryland, just outside of DC. And one of the things that happened when I was elementary school is that there was this sniper who was going on a killing spree throughout the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area.
I remember that very well. Yeah.
So, what basically happened is that what happened is that when we went to school, we were not allowed to go outside for any reason whatsoever, and there were like a bunch of security people that were like at every door, and we had to go through like a special security check every time we wanted to leave to go to the buses or go home, and I don't think that kind of fear that was present during the time has ever really gone away ever since.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I remember, because I live in Maryland too. I live about an hour from DC, and I remember that time very well.
I might have to pay you a visit sometime.
Yeah. I'm in Western Maryland. I'm in Sharpsburg.
All right.
But yeah, I remember that time. I remember how scared everybody was, because I mean, he did this. The shootings were completely random, and nobody knew who it was.
Yeah, I think the official story was like that. He was trying to cover up for a murder, so he just started killing people at random.
Yeah, and it really screwed people up. I mean, people were, if you were going to drive on the highway or stop at a rest stop, it was like a big deal, because that's where a lot of it happened. People were shot like at rest stops or on the interstate, and people that I knew were like, okay, be careful, and it was just weird to have to think about that. And yeah, I think a lot of people who had that fear or who maybe who were responsible for people, like school administrators or what have you. They probably haven't ever forgotten about that. And the unfortunate thing is, I mean, in theory, you live with that kind of you live in that kind of danger all the time. You just don't think about it. I mean, it's the old saying of you could get you could walk out your house and get hit by a car, and there's nothing you could do about it. I mean, some random acts of accidents or violence happen all the time, and in some extreme cases, there are things that could happen to you that could hurt you or kill you that there's just nothing you could possibly do to prevent. And that's just something that we all live with, and we don't think about it. But when something like that sniper happens, or like a terrorist attack or whatever, like it suddenly reminds you. And sometimes it's hard for people to forget, to get out of that headspace. You know?
I heard people were like during that incident, people were like running in zigzags when they were getting gas, like they would get out of the car and just kind of to avoid sniper fire.
I actually had to go to Manassas, Virginia during that whole process. I had a field service call at I've forgotten the name of the customer out there. I think it was Micron, but correct me on this, but I think that God, I can't even think of the name of the shooters now. But I think they were hanging out around Manassas, and I remember being very concerned about that. But here's the other thing. I also had to go to Israel back in 1984 when they had first invaded Lebanon. And I think I was more comfortable about that than I was the other, and mostly because I knew that my hosts in Jerusalem were going to take good care of me.
Yeah.
But just wandering around on my own in my own supposed backyard, in the United States, and let's keep an eye out for the guy with the long rifle.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that, like, when you have a reason to be afraid of something, that can be really hard to shake. Like, even if it goes into areas where it's not even really reasonable to have that fear. Like, a couple weeks ago, I was in Baltimore just to go to a wrestling show, and the part of Baltimore I was in was downtown Baltimore. It was not anywhere near where the civil unrest had been, and that was all over with anyway for the most part by the time I was there. And yet there were people who were saying, like, "Oh, you're going to Baltimore?" Like, people I knew were like, "Oh, you're not still going to Baltimore, are you?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like, why not? What's gonna happen? I'm gonna be. Is something gonna happen with me and the 15,000 other people, like, that I'm there with? But it's like if you don't go to those places and all you hear about on the news, oh, things are really bad in Baltimore. You think, oh, it's like a war zone. I mean, some relatives of mine took a trip to Israel recently, and they were just going on like a vacation. They just were going on like a group tour to go to the different holy sites. And there were people who were telling them not to go. And I thought, there's always a chance that something could happen. I suppose, anything's possible, and there is a lot of, there's a lot of violence in that part of the world, but they're probably going to be fine. I mean, millions of people live there, and they don't all die. It's just sort of playing the odds.
Well, the thing about if you're going to Jerusalem is that it's considered a holy site for all three of the Abrahamic religions. So if you're going to be visiting a holy place, then odds are the violence is going to be happening somewhere away from that part of the city.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I said was, I mean, I wouldn't go to Israel just because I don't care. I wouldn't go because I was afraid. I just don't really care. I mean, like, oh, look, the dome. There's where the Dome of the Rock was. Oh, great. If I'm gonna take a trip to Europe, I'd want to go like to Italy or to France or to England. Israel is nice and all, but there's like 15 other places higher on my list of places to see before I get there.
No, Israel was pretty neat. I have to say, the neatest thing I did there was there's this little hole in the wall, maybe a stone's throw from Jaffa Gate, where I ended up getting a falafel from an old Arab who was there. And, I mean, finest kind. Oh, it was just so good. Nice slice of eggplant, marinated eggplant on top. Oh, smoking.
That does sound good.
Oh, it was excellent.
That does sound good. Hey, on that note, we've reached the end of the hour, so I'm going to wrap it up on Lauren's delicious falafel story. We started by talking
It's like
about
a shawarma scene.
Yes, exactly. It's like the shawarma scene in the Avengers. We started talking about my washer and dryer and the mysterious box. We ended with a recounting of delicious falafel. So I think this was a good hangout. Thank you guys all for watching. We'll be back again to do this again next month. And thanks, of course, to all my patrons who are gracious enough to donate to my campaign. If you're watching and you're not a patron and you'd like to become one to support my YouTube work, it's www.patreon.com/Steve Shives. Thanks to all you guys in the room with me for being patrons and all you guys watching who are patrons. And we'll see you guys again to do this next month.